Hello, Form 2s, and welcome back to a new and exciting year at Boys High. As most of you would remember from last year, my name is Miss Fulyun, and I will once again be your online EMS teacher for the next few weeks. This year, we are going to start EMS with a business studies topic called economic systems, and it basically just deals with the different type of systems that different countries use to organize their economies. Just some definitions before we can get to the good stuff. The first definition that you need to know is what is an economy. Now, an economy can be briefly explained as any area, it doesn't have to be a country, in which production, buying, and selling takes place. Then, an economic system, which is a very important definition for this topic, is it's the way in which a country organizes its economy, remember, its area of buying, producing, and selling, to address basic economic problems. Okay, so what economic problems are, or what the biggest economic problem is that there's a problem of scarcity. And that means that there is not sufficient resources in the entire world to meet everyone's needs and wants. Okay, maybe in first world countries, they have enough resources to meet the people's needs. But as you would know, being a 14, 15-year-old boy, that usually the more things you have, the more you want. In other words, people have unlimited wants, and they will never ever really be satisfied with everything that they own. Okay, so in the world, we don't have enough resources to keep everybody happy. Therefore, countries have to make decisions on how they will use the resources to try to make the most or the majority of people happy. That's why we've got economic systems. There are three basic economic systems that we are going to address. The first one is called the planned economic system or the command economic system. And you will see the picture that I used here is a puppet on a string. The reason why I use this picture, and I hope this picture comes up in your mind when you have to study for this topic, is because the government controls this entire economic system. Okay, so the government calls all the shots, the government decides how the resources will be used, what will be manufactured, where it will be sold, and at what price it should be sold. There are not many countries that still operate on this system, but there are a few still out there. The next economic system is the market economic system. This system is used in the United States of America and many other countries. Okay, and in this economic system, the whole system is driven by what we call supply and demand. In other words, companies figure out what the people want and then they supply those products. Okay, so it's all driven by companies and by buyers. And then the last economic system is called the mixed economic system. This is one that we apply in our country, South Africa. And this is where there is a part of the economy that's run by the public sector. In other words, economic decisions that are made by the government. And there's a big part of the economy that's also run by the private sector. In other words, economic decisions are made by companies. So the companies and the government try to work together to satisfy the most needs and wants of the people. So we will come back to these three economic systems just in a bit. To determine which economic system a country uses, we ask ourselves four basic questions. So if you can answer these four basic questions, then it's easy for you to determine which economic system is being used. The first question is who makes the economic decisions? You would have noticed in the previous slide, I said the planned economy is the decisions are made by the government. the market economy, the supply and demand helps to drive the economic decisions, and in the mixed economy, the private sector and the government both make economic decisions. The next question is who possesses the factors of production? Now, factors of production is a term that should immediately ring a bell in your head because we dealt with this in Form 1, and this is actually what we will recap in the rest of this presentation. The third question is how are the resources allocated? In other words, how are the limited resources that the country has allocated to produce specific goods and services? And then the last question is how are the goods and services distributed? In other words, who buys the goods or who enjoys the services and at what price? As I mentioned before, the rest of this video will just quickly recap the 4 factors of production. Now you would remember that we have 4 factors of production and we need all of them to run a proper business. The first one is capital, then labor, natural resources, and entrepreneurship. Now, capital refers to the money that we need to start, operate, and expand a business. Okay, and then this money is used to buy equipment. We sometimes refer to equipment and machinery and vehicles as capital goods, okay, because we need all of these things in order to produce goods and services. And we also use this money to hire staff. Now, there are 2 different sources of capital. We've got our own capital. That's the capital that we refer to when we do accounting. It's the owner's own money that he saved or maybe inherited, and he invests his own money in his business. Or for the majority of companies where the owner doesn't have enough money to start the company, he borrows capital from friends or family or a bank, and he must pay that capital back. And as you would have remembered from last year, the reward for every factor of production usually refers to what you have to pay for that factor of production, and in this case, the reward for capital is interest. The next factor of production is my personal favorite because you can actually visualize this, and it's labor. So the basic definition of labor is it's just the human, physical, and mental effort that a company needs to produce goods and services. And we've got 3 different levels of labor in a company. We've got our unskilled laborers. These are the laborers that do not have any skills training, okay, but they do manual labor and they usually improve through experience. So in terms of Boys High, these will be your ground staff members. They are very good at what they do, but they didn't have to go and study cutting grass or something at a university or at a college. They arrived at Boys High, they got employed, and as they are cutting the grass, they are getting better and better and better at it. The next level of labor is called semi-skilled labor. Now, these laborers have some form of expertise, but it's usually limited to one direction. Okay, so my favorite example of this is a baker. That's why I use that little icon with the man with the bread in his hand, because a baker doesn't necessarily have to be trained. Let's say this baker grew up in a family that owned a bakery and he was always there while his mom baked the bread. He might have been trained by his mom as he grew up, and now he has taken over the bakery. Okay, so he's an expert in his own field. He can bake any type of bread or cake, but he didn't necessarily go and study for it. And the moment when you tell this guy that he cannot be a baker and you remove him from that setting, he doesn't have any other skill set to take on any other job. Okay, so that's what we call a semi-skilled laborer. Other examples are like plumbers or electricians or maybe bookkeepers or secretaries that didn't go and study, but someone just taught them the skill on the side. The last level is skilled labor. Now, skilled labor are the people with a qualification. So if you're ever unsure whether an example is one of semi-skilled or skilled, just look, did this person go and study? Okay, so it's someone that has a qualification in a particular field, and the skilled laborers usually do more of the mental work than the physical work. And then what do we pay our laborers? Salaries and wages. The next factor of production is referred to as natural resources. It's mostly land, but it can be other resources as well that we derive from the earth that we need to produce goods and services. So I added a few pictures here. Okay, there's water, there's minerals, there's oil, there's wind, and there's land. All of those things are incorporated when we produce goods and services. Okay, without land, businesses won't have a place to operate from, and all products and most services require some form of other natural resources, a raw material that is then transformed into a finished good. The reward for land or the payment for land is usually either rental payments or maybe bond repayments, which we will deal with in Form 3 accounting. And then lastly, the fourth factor of production is the guy that has to bring all of the other factors of production together and produce something that is unique and that will address people's wants and needs. And that person is the entrepreneur. Okay, so the fourth factor of production is entrepreneurship. This person is not just a normal, unskilled, semi-skilled, or skilled laborer. He combines all the factors of production to produce a service or a product. He has ideas, and his ideas and actions direct what the business will do and how the business will do it. And usually, this guy is the one that is rewarded with a profit. Okay, so that is it for your first week of EMS for 2021. I almost said 2020. I'm still there.